NBC7's Nightly Check-In is sponsored by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Flood and Restoration.
We know how.
Fired because her kids were making too much noise during her work calls. Tonight, NBC7 talks to a San Diego mother who is now suing her boss. It is a story striking a nerve with a lot of working parents who are juggling work and home life right now. Thanks for joining us for the Nightly Check-In. I'm Catherine Garcia.
As a mother, as a working mother, I was outraged.
Attorney Daphne Delvaux filed a lawsuit on behalf of a San Diego mother who she says was fired because her kids were too noisy during conference calls. Drisana Rios was an account executive at an insurance firm called Hub International. Delvaux says Rios repeatedly explained to her bosses the difficulties of working from home with a 1- and 4-year-old.
The fact that we show up at work means we left our children for this job. So to question our loyalty, it's outrageous and it's a betrayal to all working mothers.
The mother's former employer sent this statement in response to the lawsuit, quote, "While we can't comment on pending litigation, Hub is proud to have successfully transitioned 90 of its 2,000 employees to working remotely from home throughout the COVID-19 pandemic," end quote. The lawsuit says Rios is seeking monetary damages, including back pay and future losses. The White House is putting pressure on schools, the campuses themselves, to reopen. Today, the Trump administration announced it plans to release its own reopening guidelines for schools sometime next week. President Trump attacked a blueprint from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, calling it tough and expensive. He threatened to withhold funding from schools that don't fully reopen. Vice President Pence said the new guidelines will only be a recommendation. He says they won't replace state and local decision making. While the president says the CDC guidelines for reopening schools are too strict, too expensive, some local experts say even if all the guidelines were followed and the school environments were safe, there are still health risks.
And I think that's why it's incredibly important to think about what we can do at the school site to keep people safe when we do have kind of 12 households all combined together in one room.
Dr. Rebecca Fielding Miller is a social epidemiologist at UC San Diego. She says for the most part, young students are relatively low risk, but there are other people at school that are higher risk, including teachers who are age 50 or older, janitors, cafeteria workers, and more. Many schools here in San Diego are scheduled to reopen at the end of August. County leaders are reminding us, meanwhile, that the coronavirus continues to spread across this county. They said cases have been growing since the reopening of the local economy. Our positive test rate is significantly lower, though, than yesterday at 3%. That's 264 new cases out of 7,607 tests reported today. In all, there are now 17,842 total confirmed cases here. 7 additional deaths brings the total deaths now to 406 people. The South Bay has been hit hard by the virus, as you know, but new public data analyzed by NBC7 shows other spots in the county are seeing rising numbers now. Over the past 2 weeks, Pacific Beach saw a case increase of 131%. San Marcos saw a 118% increase, and parts of Vista saw a 108% uptick in cases. Fallbrook also saw a 141% increase. The county won't give specific locations, but we do know that these increases have coincided with several outbreaks at bars and restaurants, and more younger people are getting sick. Well, we are halfway to the weekend, so what are we in store for? Your forecast with Dagmar after a quick break.
NBC7's Nightly Check-In is sponsored by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Flood and Restoration.
Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE. Bill Howe. We know how.
We need a new AC.
I don't think we can afford one.
Well, I wish we knew how.
Did someone say how?
For a quality American-made air conditioner?
You know who to call.
Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE. We know how.
Your Thursday is shaping up to be beautiful. Now, you will see some partly cloudy skies along those coastal zones. Your temperatures will still be in the mid to the upper 70s, but again, partly cloudy to mostly sunny. Inland Valley still in the mid to upper 80s, but watch what's happening now in the mountains. Mountains are starting to climb up out of the low 80s into the mid and upper 80s. Deserts, you're sitting at around 110 to possibly 112. The heat is beginning to build in for both of those zones. We do have some major heat on the way, potentially dangerous weather. I'll be letting you know a little bit more about that the closer we get. For now, enjoy your Thursday.
Several restaurants along Orange Avenue in Coronado have shut down after employees tested positive for COVID-19. And some people are accusing one of the restaurants of putting people at risk by not announcing the first case early enough. Commenters on Facebook were upset that the Henry restaurant did not notify the public when the first employee there tested positive. That was on July 3rd. They reopened the next day. And then when a second employee tested positive Monday night, the Henry decided to close. Just a block down the street, an employee at High Tide Bottle Shop and Kitchen also contracted the virus. Customers there were thankful the business closed and notified them right away.
It doesn't surprise me, and I think they're being responsible given the environment that we're in. There's a lot of older customers here. There's a lot of high-risk people in Coronado.
A third restaurant, McPee's Irish Pub, also closed yesterday for a deep cleaning after it also had an employee that contracted the virus. The pub is hoping to reopen Thursday morning. Another city is trying something new to allow restaurants to survive during these tough times. Last night, the Poway City Council approved a plan to buy picnic tables and let restaurants use them for outdoor dining. The owner of Felipe's Pizza Grotto says the city came out to their private parking lot where they plan to put 10 picnic tables. That's going to help them make some extra money and save jobs.
We should be able to keep our servers on staff, our bussers, the dishwashers' hours will be expanded. It means everything, and it's going to help everybody out.
Poway's mayor says after the pandemic, the tables will be moved to parks. He also said a carpenters union has volunteered to help make the tables if the city simply buys the materials. And that's going to do it for our nightly check-in. Before we go, though, we wanted to remind you to check out a new episode of Into San Diego, which was formerly our Insight podcast. The team goes into COVID complacency and the long-term effects the virus can have on people. Have a good night.